Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Cricket Rockstar show for Balian and mi amigos. It's your host Tyrelle Audain, your handsome cricket rockstar. And well, ladies and gentlemen, history was created today at the FIFA Men's World Cup. Before I go any further, ladies and gentlemen, make sure you guys follow me on all of my social media platforms for all things personal related cricket and football. If you missed the 2 round of 32 matches at the FIFA Men's World Cup today, you will totally regret this, as Egypt created history today, not only scoring their first goal in a FIFA World Cup knockout game in over 90 plus years, but also winning a knockout game for the first time in the country's history. They defeated Australia 4-2 on penalties after the scores were deadlocked at 1-1 following regulation time and extra time. The Pharaohs started on the front foot playing beautiful heavy metal football, and it paid off when Imam Asher smashed an absolute banger of a goal into the back of the net to give Egypt an early 1-0 lead. But mind you, ladies and gentlemen, there's an old saying that says never write off any team in this World Cup. And in this case, never write off the Socceroos out of this game, as they had to dug deep and force a frantic own goal of Mohamed Hani to level the score, sending this game into 30 extra minutes of extra time, followed by penalties. But when it came to the penalty shootout, ladies and gentlemen, and we're flash forwarding to it, because Australia, not only they lost the plot, but they absolutely made a mockery of themselves. Why? Why would you substitute your young goalkeeper who did a hell of a splendid job right throughout the whole 120 minutes, only to replace him with a goalie who failed to save one shot at all? All 4 goals Egypt scored was successful, as for Australia, they only scored 2 from the penalties and missed 2. And that wasn't all, ladies and gentlemen. All of Australia's shooters, except for the 2 who scored the goal, lost the plot, while Egypt's talisman Mo Salah pulled off a cheeky Panika, followed by before Hussein Abel Malji struck the winning penalty, ensuring a historic victory that sent the Egyptian fans absolutely delirious. And that wasn't all. This is the first time they're at the round-up 16 in the FIFA Men's World Cup history. And this just goes to show that FIFA deserves credit not only for expanding the World Cup, but giving more countries, especially those in the African continent and even in Asia as well, an opportunity to prove themselves. Even the Caribbean nations, they did well, but unfortunately couldn't have gotten past the first round. But nevertheless, Egypt deserves a huge round of applause. And that wasn't all, ladies and gentlemen. Egypt themselves, after they won the game, did pray to their Almighty. And that wasn't all. They even brought out the Palestine flag and dedicated it to the victims who have continuously to lose their lives because of the Israelites committing terrorism constantly day after day, and it's constantly being backed by the US. You know what, ladies and gentlemen? Before the match even had started, Egyptian supporters were being abused by police officers in Dallas, Texas. What has you all have to say about this? Let me know in the comment section below, ladies and gentlemen. They not only, but the one thing that I find that was very classy was Mo Salah himself. Immediately after Egyptian had won the match, he went to console the Australian players in what was an absolute class act. It was 100% sportsmanship shown. And I would also like to point out, I am extremely angry by the way how Liverpool treated Mo Salah, which forced him out of the club. And I do hope he gets a new club in time for the new football season, whether it's in England or in any other European country, or even he goes on to play the Saudi League, which Ronaldo and a few others have been at for the past few seasons now. But let's get down to this part, ladies and gentlemen. The match of the day that I'm going to talk about now, outside of Egypt versus Australia, was the one which happens to be the match of the World Cup and the match of the tournament on the whole. That's Argentina versus Cabo Verde. Why? Because the twin island African nation literally unsettled the world champions, who, mind you, had one of the easiest paths through the first round into this round of 32 phase. And I'll tell you something, ladies and gentlemen. This Cabo Verde team, despite losing to Argentina 3-2, must hold their heads very high as they force the Argentines to go the entire distance. And credit for that must be given to Cabo Verde's goalkeeper, Vozinha. The 40-year-old deserves all the credit. Why? Because he saved 8 shots, which made the Argentines suffer for most of the match. But anyways, ladies and gentlemen, the good news for the defending champions though was their captain Lionel Messi returning to the starting lineup and continued his sublime goal-scoring form, slotting home a clinical finish to open the scoring for Argentina. However, the African debutants didn't collapse under the pressure. Instead, they countered attack with fast pace, allowing the Argentina blow for blow with Leroy Durante and a sensational world-class screamer from Sidney Lopez in the first half of extra time, which was an absolute beauty. One of the goals of the tournament. Sidney Lopez Cabral, I should say. I should have said the full name, but I do apologize for that. But on the whole, it was a gritty, scrappy defensive effort and a dramatic, deflected own goal forced by Christian Romero's bullet header early in the second half of extra time rescued a 3-2 victory for the Albicelestines. If you look at how both Egypt and Argentina played today, let me say this. The Egyptians, they did let their guard off a little bit in the match against Australia. As for the Argentines in their match against Cabo Verde, they took the Cabo Verde team for granted. And look what come and happened. They conceded 2 goals late in the, or should I say, in the second half of regulation time and the first half of extra time where they equalized again. They let them score 2 goals, and those 2 goals by Cabo Verde was simply outstanding, and they deserve a round of applause for this. And then one thing is for sure, Egypt, they did keep their cool and composure under pressure in the penalty shootout against the Aussies. Unlike for the Argentines against Cabo Verde, they took everything for granted. But beware of the Egypt team. Why? Because they can surprise any team on any other day, just like with Morocco in the game against the Netherlands, where they had to come from behind to win on the shootout. And I do hope that these African sides can go a long way, like what Morocco did the last time. Can Egypt go all the way? Can they stun Argentina? It's a long shot, just like what Cabo Verde did with Argentina. It was a long shot, but they had to fight. Can this Egyptian team fight, or will the Argentines take it for granted and easily win the game? We'll never know. But let me also go one step further. Australia's youth, they brought incredible endeavor, but their lack of clinical finishing up front meant that they couldn't capitalize on the dominance during regulation. While on the other hand, Cabo Verde, they showed the entire world how to evacuate a perfect transitional game. Like what they did in all 3 of their group stage games. They played a perfect game. And their goalkeeper deserves a huge round of applause. He might be 40 years old. I don't know if he will ever play another World Cup. That is another question that will be asked. But the way how Cabo Verde played in this World Cup, it goes to show that any small country can surprise any big country who has won so many championships on any day. The way how they played today against Argentina, especially their explosive wingers to completely bypass Argentina's midfield press and exploit the spaces between Nahuel Molina, was such a classic display of champions winning ugly. But on the whole, Cabo Verde, you deserve a massive shout out for the way you have played in the last 4 games. You truly have stunned the world. That's why I said on social media, they're the survival of the fittest. Their defense was absolutely superb. But hopefully in the future, their attack gets even better. God's willing, it will happen. Mark my words right now. Argentina and Egypt, on the other hand, they didn't play their best textbook football, but their big game temperament allowed them to find a way over the line when the pressure reached the boiling point. Looking ahead, it sets up a mouth-watering round of 16 clash between Mo Salah's history-making Egypt and Lionel Messi's defending champions Argentina in Atlanta, Georgia. It is sure going to be an absolute cracker. I do hope the Egyptians can fight, but at this time, it's a long shot. As for Argentina, they'll come in this game feeling a bit rattled, but still have the psychological advantage. But on the other hand, while Cabo Verde and Australia exit the World Cup at the grandest stage, they should hold their heads very high after putting on a lot of pure heart and brilliant football on the whole. That's going to do it for tonight's episode of the Cricket Rockstar Plus show. You might see me wearing a different outfit tomorrow, but I cannot say what I'll be wearing. It's confidential. So until then, ladies and gentlemen, bye-bye for now.